Did you want to start with anything or just?
No, hey, I'm ready for any questions.
All right, we'll start with questions. Who wants to start us?
Yeah, I can go. Jeff Cameron from the Courier Journal. I know after the game on last Sunday, you said you wanted to see how the team responded in practice. How have they been since that loss, and did you kind of get the response that you were looking for?
Yeah, we've had some really good practices. We got back to work on Wednesday, so we had good practice Wednesday, Thursday. Trying to get it to be a little more player driven, so our coaches don't have to bring the energy. Just got to get a little chip on our shoulder. That's one thing we have not played with, and it's something we need to have if we're going to try and make a run here. Starts off on Sunday with a chance to win the ACC regular season, and then following up quickly after that with a ACC tournament. So I expect a good day of practice today and tomorrow, and then it's going to be, can we turn that over into a game?
I guess, Jeff, a follow-up to that. Do you talk to the team about the implications of this game of winning the ACC and obviously a one seed in the tournament?
Oh, yeah. The players are quite aware of what's at stake. I think that's my job. I mean, if you can't play with a little bit of pressure, boy, you probably picked the wrong school to come to. So they understand what's at stake. Now it's just us going out and executing. It's, we get a little panic in it, unfortunately, and it's not a good thing when shots don't go in. We have this mindset, if we're down 5, there's like such thing as a 5-point shot, where we just got to get back to our fundamentals and execute at the offensive end, get the best shot we can, try to set your teammates up, and then get a stop. But that, unfortunately, we get into a little bit of a panic, and we've addressed that. We've talked about it, and hopefully we won't see that anymore in close games.
Is that type of panic a little worse when Dana's shots aren't falling? Because they've fallen all year, and that was the rare day where her shots weren't falling.
Well, yeah, you know what? It was, and there's some things that I've shown Dana. I showed her the way she started the third quarter, how effective she was getting everybody else the ball, because teams they're blitzing her. They're bringing 2 or 3 players at her. Now they're challenging her. Okay, can you make this next read? And I've talked to her about it. We printed out stats of all of our Final Four runs here in 9, 13, and 18. And, there was a few games where Shoney took 7 shots. Durr took 8 shots in one game. Angel, she's different because Angel was getting 5 steals that led to 5 shots of her own. She'd get 3 or 4 offensive rebounds. Angel got 9 shots on her own. I didn't have to do anything for her. And that's what I just talked about to Dana. I'm like, hey, there might be some games you only might take 7, 8 shots. But if you're making the right read, you're going to get 10, 12 assists, and that's just as productive. And, as a competitor, obviously, the last thing she wanted to do was go 5 for 21 or 5 for 22, whatever it was. But it's good growth. It's good for her. And I think she took that, what I tried to explain to her, and has really tried to practice that the past 2 days in practice of pretending, hey, shots aren't going in, so now I got to work to get somebody else the ball. So I was really proud of her.
Hey, Jeff,
it's a game on Sunday. I mean, for us, it's a huge game. Obviously, to be able to say you've won this league or had a share of it twice, then won it outright twice is pretty darn impressive. When people expect you to win, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to win. And then when you have a game like we had against Florida State, everybody thinks the world's coming to an end. But we do know, and I've stressed it in years past, our margin for error is slim, and we've got to make sure we're doing everything we can to give ourselves the advantage and benefit to win during these games.
Jeff, it's Eric Crawford. You knew going into the season there were going to be some losses up and down the line. You probably didn't. You don't ever want one. You certainly don't want one late in the year. But I mean, how do you balance that between you guys got to take this to heart and get serious and get moving again, and having them not get too down from it, because it is, they're just going to happen sometimes.
No, it does. And that's the one thing that, we have to learn to control the controllables, as they say, and not worry about things that we can't control. Our effort, we can control. Our body language, we can control. If shots don't go in, you can't always control that, but you can control what shots you take. So we have addressed those things. We've talked about those things. And, normally the great thing about basketball is you don't have to wait a week before playing your next game. But for us, this was like a football. You went from Sunday to Sunday. And I hope it was good for us, because I wanted it to sting for a while. It needed to sting. They needed to realize, hey, we had a chance to win the ACC outright, and absolutely were terrible. And I'll take responsibility for that too. But at the same time, I tell the players, I can't play for you. Like, you have to play with some passion also. It just can't be me coaching with passion. You've got to play with it. So they accepted that too. And I do expect to see a different level of intensity up at Notre Dame.
Jeff,
it is.
Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Cameron.
You're good.
It is strange, Jeff, when you did nothing but play basketball games in January, and then we get to February and it's like it's week on, week off. You got to take a week pause. That is bound to kind of to get with players too, just a little bit. How are they doing? Just kind of navigating this little different rhythm, which is just about to change again.
Well, the players are fine. And to be honest, Eric, I can't even use that as an excuse, because it's, the one little pause we had was like having a bye week. We played on Thursday, didn't play Sunday, came back on Thursday. Now, granted, we weren't able to have full practice or things like that for a few days, but it wasn't like what we experienced right there before Christmas time, where it was like 3 weeks. And then, we played Sunday. We gave off Monday and Tuesday like we would normally do if we had a Thursday off. And now we've been back at it. So, I feel good about where we are. Plus, the rest was needed. So I was actually pleased that we had our little bye when we had it on Thursday. So you should see a lot of excited and a lot of energy from our kids on Sunday. And then we'll get back home here, figure out if we're going to be a 1 seed or 2 seed in the ACC tournament, and then we'll start up on Friday in that.
Jeff, Cameron, again, when you look at this Notre Dame team, how different are they from the team that you played a couple weeks ago? I mean, they've won a couple in a row, beat Florida State a couple days ago. Obviously, it should be a pretty good test for you all.
No, I think it's going to be a great game. Maddie Westbelt's playing extremely well. Olivia Miles, the early enrollee, played well against us here. She's had some consistent games of playing well. They play that matchup, that 2-3 zone. It's not necessarily a matchup. It's an old school 2-3 zone. They bump the wings back and really are going to challenge you to be patient at the offensive end. They want you to hold the ball. They want you to hold it and jab and ball fake and just do all this stuff slow. You've got to move it. If you're going to shot fake, it's got to be a quick shot fake. And then when they fall for it, you've got to attack them. I thought in the game last night against Florida State, Notre Dame did a really good job of dictating the tempo of that game. And we've got to make sure that we're ready to play with a lot of passion and energy to dictate the tempo to them.
Hey, Jeff, this is Gary Graves from AP. Can you think back to like Dana's freshman and sophomore years in terms of how you had to keep her encouraged after maybe a bad shooting game and really kind of, keep her engaged with the program, especially back then when, there was talk of her transferring?
Well, the good thing about it, the talk of her transferring was when she was upset after a bad game. It's what I laugh about, because her parents have been fantastic. Her dad's always been great. We had a situation once at her freshman year after a game. She's talking about transferring and this and that. And then she comes in the next morning and she's like, hey, coach, I'm sorry. I talked to my dad last night and he said he wouldn't have played me as much as you did. When you've got parents like she has that are able to evaluate and really look at their daughter's performance and tell her, hey, you did great, you did bad. Here are areas you have to work on. That's why Dana's been as successful as she is. Not only does she put the work in, but she's got level-headed parents behind her that are able to look at situations and go, you know what? You weren't very good. You have to get better. And that doesn't always happen. It just doesn't. As we all know, a lot of times, hey, my kid's always great. I've got 4 kids. They do no wrong. And unfortunately, that's just not reality. So for Dana, she's had that great support at home. And she's been able to at times take a step back when she needs to and realize, okay, this is what I have to do. And that's why her journey has been like it's been. And I'm excited to see what happens after her college career is over. I'm looking forward to seeing her continue to grow in her professional career. But for her, the one thing I can tell you is this. If she's 19 for 21 or 5 for 21, she still thinks the next one's going in. So I'm not worried about where her psyche is or anything like that. She works at her game, and because she works at it, she gets good results.
Yeah. I guess as a follow-up, in light of Sunday, how have you kind of seen her kind of brushing that off and maybe making her a little bit more determined to bounce back in this game?
It's the way she's always been. It is. If we don't win, she has a bad game. She moves on to the next. She's ready to go out there and compete. She knows she can't do anything about our game on Sunday. There's nothing she can do about it. She does the same thing. She's back in the gym on Monday and Tuesday shooting. She's working on her game. She's working on her pull-up, working on her 3. That's the sign of great players. She's just not in the gym when things go well. She has a routine that she sticks to. She watched Dani Durr do that for 3 years, for 2 years. Asia had a shooting routine she did every single day. Doesn't matter if she wasn't feeling well, had a good day or a bad day. She did it. And that's what Dana does. And that's why I don't worry about, is she in a shooting slump? No, it was just one bad day. She'll be back at it on Sunday, competing at the highest.
Anything else for Coach?
Yeah. Hey, Coach. I got another one.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah. With the tournaments coming up and the bubble environments, I guess that will be there. How do you prepare your team for that, as opposed to say, what you've gone through basically since last summer?
You know what? Have you ever been to the beach or the lake, and they've got those bubbles that the kids can get in and be on the water? You can move it on the water. I'm getting every one of my players that, and we are going to stay in those. And with the way we've guarded at times, we can wear them during games too, because we like to, stay about 5 or 6 feet away from somebody. No, Gary, we just talked about it as a staff. The NCAA tournament's going to come, and we're going to get picked for it, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we stay away from everybody, so we don't get this virus. But you're going to have 64 teams, and if this tournament, the men's and women's, I think they have their 65 or whatever the men do, but if both of these tournaments can go off without one team having to forfeit because of the virus, it'd be an absolute amazing accomplishment. And I don't think anybody can argue that, because it's a lot of teams, and you just don't know. It's not like somebody's walking around with a light bulb above their head saying, I've got the virus, stay away from me. There are a lot of people that have no symptoms. So it's going to be a challenge, Gary. There's no question. We're going to continue to do everything we've done. We've talked to our players about it. And as I've said before, the players have done an unbelievable job. Now it's everybody else too. It's everybody else, because support staff, they have to know how important it is for them to limit their interaction with everyone also.
Hey, Jeff, this is Cameron again. I'll follow up to that. Sometimes it's hard for players when you're used to having this like robust social life on a normal year. You don't get that. For players to follow the protocols as tightly as like you said, your players have, you feel like that's just their willingness to say, hey, I'm going to do whatever I can to get on the court and get the season in?
Yeah, without a doubt. As I've said, we have had 2 pauses here, one for an extended period of time, another for one game, and either of them initiated with one of our players. And, did some of our players contract the virus? Yes, but it was not initially started with them. So our players have done a remarkable job. And that's the one thing that's so difficult, not just with us, but with college basketball and football, all of college athletics, is as soon as a team goes on pause, the initial reaction from the media, from the fan base, is what are these kids doing? Can't they follow a protocol? Guys, I'm telling you, it's not always the kids, and I'm willing to bet you a majority of the time it's probably not, because they want to play. This is the one thing they want to do. They want to play, and my players have been remarkable at the way they've handled themselves.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I guess along that line, I guess the challenge of boredom and tedium, how do you, what kind of inventive things have you come up with to kind of, just break that monotony in a sense?
Gary, with my wonderful sense of humor, would you do you even think it could be boredom, knowing they get the chance to come spend about 2 to 3 hours with me a day?
Yeah, but boredom,
Quote.
Yeah.
You know what? We try to make it as much fun as we can. I mean, we are competing to hopefully get back to a Final Four and win a national championship. But I'll tell you this at the same time, Gary, it is important to make sure that these kids laugh. You got to be able to laugh at times. We try to talk to them a lot about life in general, not just basketball. Ask them how their families are doing. Like I never ask them, how was your weekend? Because I know the answer. It was boring. They aren't doing anything. But we do try to talk about their families, their siblings, their cousins, their parents, whatever it might be, to just have some dialogue where it's not just basketball. Like Coach Purcell and my staff have done a great job when we're on the road. We normally have our tabletop question. If you could have a car, what's your best car? What car would you want? And then just different things that kids can start answering questions. We start laughing, and you try to make it as enjoyable as you can. But you are right. It's been a challenge for them, and not just for the student athletes, but for all students. This has been as atypical of a college year as anyone's ever had. Now, going to class, it reminds me of my junior year in college, but unfortunately, there wasn't a pandemic, and I was supposed to be in class. So, I was doing my classwork NTI, but I was way before the time. And that could have resulted in my GPA that semester, Gary. All right, Nick, you guys have been fantastic, guys. I appreciate what y'all do. I appreciate you covering our program, and hopefully we'll go up here on Sunday and perform well and give you guys a nice little story to be able to write about 4 consecutive ACC regular season titles. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.